In the headlines of VTV News, celebrating 69 years of Vietnamese Doctors Day, State President visits medical workers in Ho Chi Minh City. Enterprises explore new export markets. And later on in our world news, G20 leaders meet in Brazil to discuss global governance.
Broadcasting from Hanoi, the capital of Vietnam, VTV News starts right now.
Hello there, welcome to VTV News broadcast live to you from Hanoi. You're with me, Lina Pham. Now, in commemoration of the 69th anniversary of Vietnamese Doctors Day, State President Võ Văn paid a visit to doctors and healthcare workers in Ho Chi Minh City. He visited a newborn who had been treated for a heart defect by doctors from Từ Dũ Hospital and Children's Hospital No. 1 while still in the womb. The baby was healthy after birth. This treatment method, a first in Vietnam and Southeast Asia, is an advanced technique. The state president expressed his admiration, stating that this success signifies not only a significant advancement in congenital heart treatment, but in the medical field, and also embodies the spirit of Vietnamese doctors. State President Võ Văn sent his best wishes to the medical team, emphasizing that the medical profession is noble and dedicated to the protection and care of people's health. He also acknowledged the challenges, hardships, and pressures that doctors and healthcare workers face. The National Assembly Standing Committee held its 30th meeting in Hanoi on February the 22nd, focusing on 5 major topics. National Assembly Chairman Vương Đình Huệ stated that the committee would discuss adjustments to the draft law on archives revised, set to be presented at the National Assembly's 7th session in May. Committee members will contribute ideas to the draft law on amendments and additions to some articles of the law on guard force. The aim is to legalize the 13th National Party Congress resolution and the Politburo's resolution number 12. This will strengthen the construction of the People's Security Force, clarify the Constitution's regulations, and address some issues in this area. Simultaneously, they will review a proposal from the Supreme People's Procuracy to assign additional procurators to the People's Procuracy. National Assembly Chairman Huệ noted that the National Assembly's 7th session approaches. The workload is significant with many bills and draft resolutions to consider. Hence, he urged relevant agencies to expedite preparations for 2 National Assembly Standing Committee meetings in March. According to an analysis by New World Wealth, Vietnam is projected to see a 125% increase in wealth over the next 10 years. This increase is the largest of any country when considering GDP per capita and the number of millionaires. Vietnam is becoming a popular manufacturing hub for multinational firms in tech, automotive, electronics, clothing, and textiles. The country, home to 19,400 millionaires and 58 semi-millionaires, is seen as relatively safe compared to other Asia-Pacific nations. This safety perception encourages companies to establish manufacturing operations in the country. Vietnam's strategic location, low labor cost, and export supporting infrastructure have made it a prime destination for international investment. New World Wealth is a wealth intelligence firm based in South Africa. Now, to satisfy business recruitment needs and create job opportunities for workers after date, 44,000 new jobs are required. The Hanoi Employment Service Center, in coordination with 8 northern region localities, organized an online job fair session. The cities and provinces involved are Hanoi, Ninh Bình, Bắc Giang, Bắc Cạn, Thái Nguyên, Thái Bình, Quảng Ninh, and Hải Phòng. Over 130 units and businesses participated with a recruitment target exceeding 44,000. This demonstrates the labor market's continued recovery after date It presents an opportunity for workers, especially students and new graduates, to find jobs. Industries with large recruitment needs include wholesale and retail, processing and manufacturing, transportation and logistics, hotel and restaurant services, and tourism. After the Lunar New Year holiday, businesses have resumed production and secured export orders from the beginning of the year and actively striving to meet delivery deadlines. This outcome underscores the collaborative efforts of local authorities in supporting businesses to facilitate trade promotion and explore new markets, as showed in Vau Province.
Recently, over 150 employees of the company have been diligently fulfilling export orders of wooden furniture for the European, Japanese, Canadian, and American markets. The company already has production orders for the first half of 2024. Its revenue goal for this year is $4 million.
Our workers often have to work overtime because it's the shopping season in Europe, leading to a high import of goods.
According to the Vau City Department of Industry and Trade, the province's export activities demonstrated positive signs in January. The export turnover, excluding oil and gas, reached nearly $500 million. This figure represents a 6.5% increase from the previous month and a 2% rise from the same period last year. Asia continues to account for over 60% of the province's total export turnover.
Since the beginning of the year, orders have been steadily resuming. The Board of Directors plans to recruit additional staff to manage the surge of upcoming orders.
In 2024, Vau Province aims to achieve an export turnover of $1.65 billion. To meet this target, businesses need to identify niche markets for expansion. They should also utilize opportunities arising from cross-border e-commerce.
We plan to support businesses through the implementation of export plans until 2025. We also have projects that support businesses participating in global distribution and supply chains.
Vau City is planning to conduct trade promotion activities in international markets. The goal is to establish new markets for key export products. They also assist businesses in responding to anti-dumping, anti-subsidy, and trade lawsuits. Furthermore, they organize dialogues with businesses to find solutions to challenges, aiding them in enhancing their production and export activities.
The free trade agreement between Vietnam and the EU, EVFTA, has entered its fourth year. This agreement, featuring the highest level of commitment among all FTAs Vietnam has signed, will eliminate 99% of import tariff lines between the two parties within 7 to 10 years. This is especially beneficial for Vietnam's competitive agricultural products such as rice, seafood, coffee, cashew, nuts, tropical vegetables, cocoa, palm oil, and wooden furniture. Currently, the EU is one of Vietnam's top 4 export markets for agricultural, forestry, and fishery products. Vietnam is also one of the 4 Asian countries to have signed a free trade agreement with the EU. In 2023, Vietnam's export turnover to the EU reached about $5 billion, and exports in January this year increased by 18% compared to the same period last year. Products such as lok choy rice, fresh lychees, and Vĩnh Hiệp coffee have been successfully exported to the EU market. At the beginning of the year, coffee prices consistently set new records. In January, Vietnam's coffee exports rose to 210,000 tons, marking a 48% increase in volume and nearly a 100% increase in value compared to the same period last year. Notably, the price of Robusta coffee continues to rise as manufacturers and consumers choose it as an alternative to the more expensive Arabica variety. As the world's leading supplier of Robusta coffee, Vietnam has the opportunity to leverage this situation by enhancing its brand and promoting sustainable growth in the industry.
This company purchases coffee from farmers at prices ranging from 3.4 to 3.6 per kilo. These prices represent a 20% increase compared to those at the end of 2023. However, compared to the same period last year, the price of coffee has doubled.
Coffee crops are scarce due to low yields. Last year, farmers rushed to harvest their crops to capitalize on high prices. Therefore, supply among farmers is limited, and it is anticipated that the supply shortage will persist.
We usually only see coffee at $1,200 to $1,500. It's up to $3,400 per ton.
At present, only Vietnam is harvesting Robusta coffee. The consistent rise in Vietnamese coffee prices over the past 2 years, along with the establishment of a new price benchmark, are presenting opportunities to redefine Vietnam's coffee value positioning in the global market.
In the next 5 years, coffee prices will be very high due to large demand and reduced supply. The supply of Robusta is limited, and we must bring Vietnamese coffee prices to their real value.
The Vietnam Coffee and Cocoa Association predicts that Vietnam's coffee exports for the 2023-2024 crop year will decrease to approximately 1.4 million tons. However, due to the ongoing increase in coffee prices, there is a possibility that export revenue will reach a new milestone of 4.5 to 5 billion USD.
And before we move to the next part of VTV News, let's check out how the Vietnam dong is weighed against other currencies in the world market today. Coming up next, Vietnam accelerates green transportation development. And Hội An, Ninh Bình, Phong Nha listed as friendliest destinations in Vietnam. Our latest update on the wildfire in Lai Province we have mentioned in the news bulletin this morning. Up to this point, it has been under control. Earlier, a wildfire that burned approximately 30 hectares of forest land in Hoàng Liên Sơn National Park in the northern mountainous province of Lai was brought under control as of Wednesday afternoon. However, at 4:30 p.m. on the same day, a new fire broke out in Dien Thang village, Da Van commune, Sapa town, bordering Lai Châu province. The Forward Command Station of Forest Fire Fighting in Lai Province mobilized an additional 120 people to access the scene, bringing the total number of people mobilized in the past 4 days to more than 2,000 people. According to preliminary statistics, about 30 hectares have been damaged. The cause of the fire remains unidentified and the loss has not been assessed yet. The trend toward a green transportation is rapidly expanding globally, and Vietnam is no exception. The government has recently introduced many policies and regulations encouraging the development of green energy vehicles. This has created significant opportunities for green transportation in Vietnam.
Established in 2019, this startup ventured into producing electric motorcycles in Vietnam. Despite the stiff competition from fossil fuel vehicles, the company, after 5 years in the market, sees numerous opportunities for green transportation growth in the country.
We believe that green transportation will continue to thrive in Vietnam, especially following the government's commitment at COP26 to achieve net zero emissions by 2050. We see that the government has implemented plans to reduce emissions and policies to encourage high-tech production enterprises.
Besides personal vehicles, public transportation systems in major cities like Hanoi and Ho Chi Minh City are transitioning from gasoline and diesel to cleaner alternatives. These include electric vehicles and buses fueled by compressed natural gas, CNG.
We're advising the Hanoi Department of Transport on a plan to achieve a 50 to 60% transition to clean energy by 2030. Our goal is to reach 90 to 100% by 2035, which is 15 years ahead of the government's requirement.
Currently, electric motorcycles constitute less than 2% of vehicles, while electric cars account for only about 0.5%. To enhance green transportation systems, we need to implement solutions such as cost support, production policies, and promotion of the benefits of green vehicles to the public.
The development of green transportation can significantly reduce air pollution by limiting CO2 and other harmful emissions from vehicles. This contributes to promoting sustainable urban development.
Numerous international cruise lines have been docking at Chiang Mai Port, offering significant tourism opportunities for Thừa Thiên Huế Province and surrounding areas in central Vietnam. To cater to these tourists, notably international visitors arriving by sea, the local tourism industry is ramping up its promotional activities, focusing especially on cruise travelers.
Shortly after the date holiday, international cruise ships arrived at Chiang Mai Port in Thừa Thiên Huế Province, bringing thousands of tourists and crew members. The customs clearance procedures were efficient. Upon their arrival in Huế, cruise passengers immediately experienced the local friendliness and hospitality.
Oh my goodness, I am so thrilled. This was absolutely the best welcome in Vietnam. Thank you.
During a one-day stop at the port, cruise passengers will visit popular tourist attractions in central Vietnam. These include historical sites in Thừa Thiên Huế Province, the ancient town of Hội An in Quảng Nam, and various attractions in Da Nang City.
I chose to visit Huế because the city is very clean, beautiful, and romantic. I'm very excited to explore its famous tourist spots.
It's really beautiful. I like the river. I like the name, the Perfume River, and the story about it.
Every cruise ship typically carries 1,000 to 2,000 tourists. This provides a great opportunity for locals to promote their tourism products.
We have collaborated with many agents, especially the Huế Monuments Conservation Center, to develop products related to the Nguyen Dynasty culture that have heritage values, aiming to enhance the experience for tourists.
40 cruise ships are expected to dock at Chiang Mai Port in 2024, bringing over 100,000 passengers and crew members to Thừa Thiên Huế Province. In February alone, 11 consecutive international cruise ships are scheduled.
Booking.com, a digital travel platform that connects travelers with various travel services, recently released its list of the top 10 friendliest destinations in Vietnam. The top 3 are Hội An, Phong Nha, and Ninh Bình. Cao Bằng, Phú Quốc, Hà Giang, Hạ Long, Đà Lạt, Tuy Hòa, and Nha Trang are also included on the list. According to Booking.com, this year's list is diverse, featuring accommodations located in a range of destinations, from beautiful beaches to peaceful mountain areas. This variety allows for a comprehensive assessment of the hospitality of the destinations. Politburo's Resolution 20 outlines the development of the Southeast region until 2030 and extends its vision to 2050. It designates Vau City to become a world-class tourism center. In alignment with this, the city plans to create green, clean, and beautiful spaces as its highlights, aiming to make it an enjoyable and livable place for everyone.
Vau City is home to nearly 40,000 trees and over 600,000 square meters of green spaces. With the goal of enhancing its livability, many local roads and streets are distinguished by different types of flowers. Gradually, this coastal city is transforming into a city of flowers.
The flower streets in Vung Tau are very long and beautiful.
Vung Tau always places natural values and open culture at the core of its development. The city's economic growth is closely tied to the sustainable preservation of its natural identity. Prioritizing green urban development, the city not only creates shade, but also enhances aesthetic value.
Trees and flowers should reflect the unique characteristics of the region. Ornamental plants and flowers should be works of art for both locals and tourists to enjoy.
Local residents join hands, work together, and support the government and state in creating green areas everywhere.
The Association of Cities of Vietnam has ranked Vũng Tàu City as the greenest, cleanest, and most beautiful urban area in the country. Looking towards 2045, Vũng Tàu aims to transform into a green, smart, and modern industrial city, while also becoming a world-class, high-quality tourism center.
To be hosted by the Northern Mountainous Province of Điện Biên, the National Tourism Year 2024 is to be a cultural, economic, and social event celebrating the 70th anniversary of the Điện Biên Phủ victory, May the 7th, 1954, May the 7th, 2024. Activities and events will introduce and promote the beauty, cultural values, and unique tourism products of Vietnam and Điện Biên, in particular to visitors. More in the following.
33 historical relics which were recognized nationally, including the special National Historical Monument of Điện Biên Phủ battlefield, 18 national intangible cultural heritages, have been registered by UNESCO as intangible cultural heritages of humanity. These are historical and cultural resources that Điện Biên Province included in building programs and events for this year's National Tourism Celebration.
The local airport has recently been upgraded, which allows it to welcome more direct flights. Necessary conditions for tourism development are available. The National Tourism Year event can act as a boost for socio-economic development of the whole region.
The province has set a target of welcoming 1.3 million tourists and earning a total revenue of over $19.6 million from tourism activities in 2024. The province tries to create breakthroughs in tourism development through improving the quality of tourism services and human resources, organizing new tours, and investing in infrastructure development.
The province will review its potentials and strengths in the developing tourism sector. Our goals would be transforming the economic structure and turning tourism into a key sector in hunger eradication and poverty reduction.
There will be 169 events taking place in the province this year, including 13 national programs. The highlight of the grand event is the opening ceremony, which is scheduled to take place on the evening of March 16 in Điện Biên Phủ City.
Coming up next in our world news, G20 leaders meet in Brazil to discuss global governance. And EU approves new sanctions package against Russia. Foreign ministers from the G20 nations convened in Rio de Janeiro on Wednesday to discuss global tensions, poverty alleviation, and methods to enhance multilateral organizations. Mauro Vieira, the Brazilian foreign minister, stressed that reforming global governance is Brazil's primary focus during its G20 presidency this year. Lula da Silva, the president of Brazil, suggested that major organizations like the United Nations, World Trade Organization, International Monetary Fund, and World Bank should include more representatives from developing nations. The meeting also aimed to identify solutions to tackle inequality, poverty, sustainable development, and the energy transition. On Wednesday, the European Union members agreed on the 13th package of sanctions against Russia related to the military campaign in Ukraine. This new package will sanction nearly 200 Russian entities and individuals. However, it will not introduce sanctions in new areas. It is anticipated to officially approve this sanction package on February the 24th and the second anniversary of the Russia-Ukraine conflict. Last year, the EU passed the 12th package of sanctions against Russia, which primarily imposed import bans on diamonds originating from Russia and aimed to prevent the circumvention and exploitation of sanctions loopholes. Germany, Europe's largest economy, has reduced its 2024 economic growth forecast. The German cabinet has significantly decreased this year's economic growth rate projection from 1.3 to 0.2%. According to Economy Minister Robert Habeck, Germany's recovery from the crisis is slower than anticipated. An unstable global economic climate and historically low global trade growth present challenges for an export-focused country like Germany. The government also predicts that inflation will fall from 5.9% in 2023 to 2.8% this year. Long-term structural issues such as skilled labor shortages and sustained weak investment are identified as areas needing attention in Germany's economy. Denmark, a leading exporter of pork and dairy products, could become the first country in the world to levy an emissions tax on farming. This move has brought political backing in the country after New Zealand last year pushed back such a tax to the end of 2025.
A Danish government-commissioned group stated on Wednesday that Denmark's farmers must reduce production by as much as 1/5 by 2030 if the country is to achieve its ambitious climate goals.
So we've been asked by the Danish government to make proposals on how to reduce the greenhouse gas emissions for the agricultural sector to reach the Danish climate targets for 2030, including the targets that are imposed by the EU regulation. The purpose of a target is to give a strong price signal to farmers, so if they want to avoid the target and reduce their emissions, there is a gain, and that is that they don't have to pay the tax.
The agriculture sector has become a political battleground as the European Union strives to meet its net zero emissions target by 2050. Farmers across the bloc have been protesting weeks, saying they are facing rising costs and taxes and excessive environmental rules.
Yeah, so far there is no other countries that have introduced a tax on the non-energetic related emissions in the agricultural sector, so they're going to be a front runner if they do this. But of course there is a discussion at the EU level to have a quota market for these kinds of emissions. That is currently halt, but perhaps that will be in the future.
A carbon tax on farmers could help Denmark achieve its legally binding 2030 target of cutting greenhouse gas emissions by 70% from 1990 levels, or around 20 million metric tons of CO2 equivalent. However, the government advisors noted that such a measure would mean higher costs for farmers and as a consequence lower production, according to the government advisors.
And now let's take a look at the weather forecast. And that's it for this edition of VTV News. Thank you very much for watching. To rewatch our program, you can download VTVgo from App Store or Google Play, or tune in our YouTube channel at youtube.com/VTV4Go. Goodbye for now.